Hey, it's the Ben Dyke Show. I've got the one of the original YouTuber political talking guys. Stephen, my audience, your audience align on so many topics, so many issues. And I feel like the last 6 months, maybe more specifically the last 2 months, we've kind of had the rug snatched out from under our feet. Donald Trump promised a lot of things, and maybe some of the things overpromised, under-delivered. What's your take on the whole thing with the list and the Epstein case?
I don't know really what to make of it because I will tell you this: it is something that is important to his voters, and he needs to walk a fine line of telling us the truth, or at least the truth that he has, versus just disregarding it, saying, "Oh, this guy's a pervert who's dead. Let's move on. We've got other problems." Like, I know we got other problems. I cover the news, but to pretend like you guys didn't make it sound like this guy was blackmailing and extorting and trafficking women and children, and then to pretend like what, he went to jail for nothing. Ghislaine Maxwell's in jail for nothing, that there's tens of thousands of hours of tapes for nothing. It's kind of a, I don't want to say a slap in the face, but I think it's a little bit ignorant. And so I'm hoping that we will get additional information. At the same time, I don't know that Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are lying to us. I think that they are dealing with the information they have. But if you study American government history, they lie and destroy stuff all the time. It's called protecting the interests of the United States. The FBI is going to protect the FBI. The CIA is going to protect the CIA. The military is going to protect the military. So everybody's out to protect themselves. So I don't know what to make of it, but I'm hoping we will get more details.
You know what? One of the things that I can't get my head around, Stephen, is I have not seen one Democrat come out and say one word. I saw a little clip of Jake Tapper saying release the files, which I am like stunned. But why do you think no Democrats are just like screaming and pounding? The silence is deafening, to use the token phrase. What's your take on that?
I believe that they know that Donald Trump is not in there, despite what a lot of wackadoos on the internet say. And so, because they can't use it against him, why burn that gunpowder, right? So I just think for them, it's like, this isn't a story that we can use against Trump. Although Elon Musk is trying to use it, he's now saying the number one highest priority of the America Party is to release the Epstein files. Well, one, that's a dumb like charter. And two, if you don't have the files, what are you going to release? You're going to have the same disappointment that we're all experiencing right now. So it's a terrible platform to run on.
I think if Elon goes down that road, there are accounts on X for actual terrorist groups, and they've got to be sending messages. There are accounts on X that are just vile and disgusting. So if he wants to go with this purity test, wouldn't that also be like, hey, Elon, be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. Because I think it's a little bit of hypocrisy. What's your thinks of, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Elon. He accused President Trump of being in there and made it sound like he had seen the files with his own eyes. He doesn't have that kind of security clearance.
No.
He's not invited to the backdoor meetings at the FBI or the CIA or Israel or wherever. So he doesn't know jack squat. Then he comes out and says that Steve Bannon is also in those files. Again, you haven't seen the files. I think he's just running his mouth, knowing that nobody's going to take the time to sue him. But for me, it's like a really brilliant guy making himself look like a fool. I don't get what he's doing there.
I think the Democrats are probably loving this because conservatives and the Republicans are ripping each other to shreds. And meanwhile, the Democrats just sit back and stay silent. The old adage from being in the military, if you see your enemy messing up, just leave them alone. And I think conservatives were beating each other up. We're ripping each other apart. There was the group that went to the release and they all got all the binders and they were dancing outside. we haven't seen anything from those binders. And like you said, like Elon is not allowed. He can walk in and stand next to the Resolute desk, but he's not allowed to sit down there. And I think that's where he feels slighted and had a little more power. But it's very strange to just watch Democrats remain silent, Republicans beat each other up. Talking of Elon and this America Party, what do you think that does to the midterms in 2026? Do you think that gives the Democrats an opening?
It may be the other reason why they're being quiet, because historically, if you look back at past elections, anytime there's a libertarian or an independent or an offshoot that gets enough percentage of the votes, Republicans lose. And right now, Democrats are positioned to lose for a decade or more.
Agreed.
So it's kind of like America. Like, you probably can't attack and conquer America, but we could destroy ourselves from the inside. I think that's one of the things that they're just sitting back going, oh, wait a minute. We can't just call Elon back because our base would be mad. But let's just let him pick off the independents and pick off the libertarians, pick off the fiscally conservative, anti-war Republicans. I do think that he is going to do that. With that said, I read just yesterday that he's not planning to run a candidate in 2026 or even 2028. He's going to let Trump finish out his term. So I think he's playing the long game. I think he's also a little bit nervous because all of the boards that oversee his companies came to him and said, hey, whenever you're distracted by politics, our companies lose hundreds of billions of dollars. So you're either in on running the company or you're out. And I read just this morning, he was caught off guard by the CEO of X retiring. She just retired out of nowhere. So he's going to have to take that back over. There's obviously some butting of heads. And so he's going to have to focus on that. SpaceX, the solar company, getting his mission to Mars. So I think he's going to be very distracted. And you can throw a lot of money at something, and it doesn't mean it's going to go anywhere. Look at President Trump. They spent almost $2 billion on Kamala Harris and less than $500 million on Trump. He ran a more efficient campaign because he had a better policy. So Elon, I like Elon. I'd like to meet him. I interviewed his dad. I'd like to interview him. But I wish that he would just move forward and say, listen, you never get a perfect candidate. So how can I move the country forward with the candidate that I do have? That's how I think anyway.
I think I didn't know that about the CEO resigning, but that is, hey, I'm backing away from the fire. It's getting too hot kind of thing. And that is, I mean, I saw where Tesla stock is down like 17, 18% over the last couple of weeks. And, you go into business to make money. You don't go into business to be Don Quixote, that is interesting. But I think everything changed when the alleged incident between him and Scott Bessent, and it looked like Elon joined the Black Eye Club, and everything sort of changed then, and I don't know about you, my audience voted for Donald Trump. They didn't vote for Elon Musk. We like what he did for free speech and all these other avenues, but it's a real critical divide that could, like you said, could really damage his share prices. One of the other things I wanted to bring up or get your take on was Trump wanting, or I don't know if it's Trump because I can't say that, but there's now this like hidden little sprinkling of mass amnesty for illegal immigrants that are here working on farms and some of the other, service industries. What's your take on that? Because I didn't vote for that.
Yeah, I don't know that will move forward. I do think that they're going to figure out some kind of special permit where they maybe register with the government. It's known that you're like a seasonal worker, but the government gets to decide the season, right? Mm-hmm. So this has been happening. My mother grew up in Idaho. Mexicans would come up, pick the strawberries, work the farms, and then they would go back home. And they wanted it that way. I mean, a lot of immigrants that are here, they're here to make money and then send it back to their family for good or bad, right? But I don't think that they'll do amnesty. Ronald Reagan made that mistake and California went blue. I don't think Donald Trump is going to be tricked into amnesty. At the same time, I do think that they're going to have to look industry by industry and say, okay, where can we replace foreigners with native born Americans? And where do we actually need to keep people? Because, you know, we got over 300 million people in America. But, you know, sometimes you have to have people that come in and do jobs that some people don't want to do. Sometimes you just need enough bodies for a season. And so I think they're going to have to work that out. But my guess is that they'll come up with some kind of work permit. It'll be seasonal. The government will decide when that season ends. And if they leave, they're invited back. And if they don't, they're gone forever. So I do think that they're going to work through that. But I think right now, Trump and Tom Homan and Kristi Noem of Homeland Security, they need to just keep focusing on the criminals, right? Like, I'm not worried about the mom who came here with their child or the family that came up. They're going to have to be dealt with at some point, whether they're given a permit or they're asked to leave and they can come right back in. I don't know. But these criminals, they gotta get them out of here. Some of these gang members, I just read that they've removed like 3,000 people in Colorado just in the last 3 months, and most of them have a criminal record. So as long as they keep, you know, deporting those people, and then the Democrats fight for criminals, and then we point out that they fight for criminals while Republicans fight for Americans, it's going to be an easy 2026. So they just need to stay mission focused.
I never realized, I'm retired from the Navy. I never realized how many people hated America and hated our actual freedoms and our security until Donald Trump got reelected. And it's so evident. And, or even whenever he was elected the first time, I saw just recently, the word is out that under new FBI leadership, they've opened criminal investigations against Brennan and Comey. All roads are leading to Obama. What's your take on that with this recent investigation that they're opening regarding the dossier, the Russia collusion? What's your take on that?
I mean, there seems to be sufficient evidence that a grand jury needs to have that evidence put in front of them. Unfortunately, investigations have lost their savor for me. It's like, I don't know if you've ever gone cologne shopping. And at some point, they all just smell the same. You need a refresher with a can of beans, from a coffee bean or whatever. Like the coffee bean that we need to clear the olfactory right now is some arrests and some accountability, right? So I think that this is great. I think it's long overdue. From everything I've read, these guys are guilty, but they deserve their day in court. That evidence deserves to go in front of a grand jury, and I would like some accountability. But personally, I'm getting kind of sick of the breaking news investigation that goes nowhere.
Yeah, I can only get so many strongly worded letters from James Comer and Jim Jordan. They just lose any sort of relevancy. I think, like you said, the American people, I know my audience, it's like when you go to Bass Pro Shops. If there were no trophies on the wall, it's just a warehouse full of outdoor stuff. I feel like Trump or his administration, Department of Justice, if we put a couple of trophies on the wall and we remember they raided Roger Stone's house, he's like 75. They raided his house at 3 a.m. They raided a former president's house at 5 a.m. They went through Melania's underwear drawer. I mean, if we remember, they arrested, Steve Bannon went to prison. Peter Navarro, prison. And I am a quid pro quo kind of guy. What you do to me, I'm going to do back to you and let you know. And I feel like there needs to be a trophy. There needs to be some sort of like major arrest, because I haven't seen it from these corrupt people. And I know my audience would give me a laundry list. Who do you think is that tipping point, or who would be that first card to fall with the corruption that we've seen? Who do you believe?
RFK Jr. is known for his sharp mind and relentless energy. Remember the viral video of him using methylene blue to stay focused, energized, and mentally resilient? Now you can experience those same benefits with Recharge from the wellness company. This doctor formulated nutraceutical delivers a never seen before combo of methylene blue, NAD, and PQQ, creating a unique formula designed to optimize mitochondrial function, improve energy, and enhance mental clarity. Methylene blue crosses the blood brain barrier to enhance memory, focus, and executive function by increasing ATP production, the true fuel of your cells. It also works as a potent antioxidant and anti inflammatory, helping protect against aging and cellular damage. If you're looking for real mental and physical edge, Recharge delivers. Get 10% off plus free shipping. Head to twc.health/amazing and use code amazing. Feel the difference. Think clearer. Recharge. I'll leave that link down below. I think it's probably going to be John Brennan. He seems to be at the center of all of it. I do think you could connect Obama, but I still believe Obama's a little too high up the chain. So I mean, look at Hillary Clinton. Everybody knows that she paid for that fake dossier, and nothing happened. So, but the thing that they might get Brennan and Comey and maybe even Clapper down the road on isn't the crime. It's that they conspired to commit the crime.
Oh, the conspiracy.
So, yes. And that actually carries a heavier weight. So, for example, I remember someone on my show said one time, if two people steal a nickel from the government, they go to jail for 5 years. But if you can prove that together they conspired to steal that nickel, they go to jail for 20 years. So just the fact that they got together, game planned how to take out a sitting president with falsified documents and lies and a chain of paperwork, I think that they're going down. I personally think Letitia James might be the first arrest and the first one to go to jail. But I do think John Brennan, just from, he's connected to a lot of bad stories. But I think that he will be the first one. Of course, people in my audience, they would probably like to see something happen to Obama, but I'm just a realist. Unless you've got like his red hand on something, I think that he's going to have plausible deniability. He's a little bit too far up the chain, but I think John Brennan and James Comey, they're just far enough up the chain. They would be a great trophy.
The one name that I haven't heard is Alvin Bragg. No one is talking about Alvin Bragg. And like you said, Letitia James fell off the map. Fannie Willis fallen off the map. Those names cause so much wrecking ball damage to America, and they've just kind of shrank back into the dark. Lisa Page and Andrew McCabe, they all just shrunk back. And it just seems like the only way that we're starting to get real information, real news, is people like yourself that filter through mainstream media and piece and parse some factual information together and put it out for our audiences. Because I don't know about you, I did a poll on my channel. Like 98% of the people that watch my channel or watch news from YouTube and various other platforms don't trust the mainstream media. What's your take on that? Because you've built a trust or a following. And I think it's just because, we're just normal people that aren't, paid by some pharmaceutical company.
Yeah, that's a great example. Yep. No pharmaceutical company here. Although Pfizer did offer me $30,000 to tell my audience to get the work. So $30,000 for 60 seconds of work. And I told them to go pound sand, that I was not going to do that. I didn't get the vaccine myself.
Me either.
I told them, no way. So, the mainstream media continues to shoot themselves in the foot. And I'm not sure why, because at the end of the day, like any publicly traded company, they're in the business of making money. And you know what really is a great way to make money? Be a truth teller. Be authentic. Be somebody that people can trust. Someone they go, I want Stephen Gardner's take on this. I want
Yeah.
Ben Dyke's take on this, right? Be that guy. But, right now, CNN, MSNBC, they're going down in flames. And I'm not sure why they're leaning into their worst self. Maybe their Trump derangement syndrome is just that fever is so hot. They just can't kick it. So, but yeah, I think the media, the landscape has changed. I think people have had their eyes opened. A lot of people are a lot more skeptical to go, is this the actual truth? Wait a minute. This might have sounded like a conspiracy. Now it's sounding kind of true. So, like, I'll give you an example. I don't usually lean into the conspiracy stuff too much because
Sure.
I'm someone that likes evidence. But when A and B line up to feed down to C, I at least need to bring it up to my audience. So, for example, for years, they told us that the government couldn't modify or geoengineer the weather, right?
Oh God, I love this.
Then last year, we find out that these green clouds roll into Dubai and it dumps more water than it has in years. They're flooded, people are trapped. There's all these SOS signals going out. I'm trapped, I can't get out of Dubai, right? And then we find out, oh, it's because they accidentally overseeded the atmosphere. Well, now the CEO of one of these companies has come forward and said, just 2 days before a freak storm in Texas dumped over 100 billion gallons of water, we were there spraying. But our scientists assure us that it had nothing to do with us. It was just a freak storm that happened to drop more water than Niagara Falls in 24 hours and kill over 100 Americans, over 20 children. I have to bring that to my audience and say, this happened. 2 days later, a storm happened, and then this horrible event happened. But I don't know if they're true, but you at least deserve to know about it.
That is so true. I mean, I worked in DC for a while as a lobbyist around the political realm. There are a couple of things I learned there. Number one, there's no coincidences in politics. Number two, politics is Hollywood for ugly people. And those are the two things that I learned while I was there. And there's just too many coincidences to dismiss. But like you said, I'm not into the conspiracies. I don't believe that Pam Bondi has the Ark of the Covenant on her desk. I don't believe that Bigfoot has the list. I don't believe that the list was in Tower 7, and that's why they got rid of that. But there's certain things that just make me scratch my head. And the thing in the flooding in Texas is crazy. And now we've got more flooding apparently happening in North Carolina. The same sort of thing. I don't know with the cloud seeding, but it just seems odd. And then I believe you've had her on your channel before. Marjorie Taylor Greene introduces a bill to prevent atmospheric manipulation. She's getting pushback. If there's nothing to it, why would anybody object to that, Stephen?
I don't know. It goes from you're crazy, this is a lie, to it's okay, but it's not bad, to whoa, we got to condemn this thing. So right now, this thing is just kind of going through the natural phase of denying and to accepting as reality. So they do need to figure it out. Same thing with the chemtrails. People were called crazy. RFK Jr.'s like, of course they're spraying stuff into the air. We just don't know why. So it's like, oh yeah, of course we're poisoning people. We just don't know why. Same thing. That you've got all these politicians. They're saying like, how many Americans are going to have rotten teeth if you take fluoride out of the water? And RFK's like, our own government put out a report last year that drinking fluorinated water lowers your IQ. They're like,
Yep.
oh, I'm a member of government. I didn't know that the government came out and told the truth about that. So we've got some low IQ people in Washington, D.C. Some of them, I'm not sure how they get elected or stay elected because they've really not done much. for their state. But yeah, it's interesting to watch. Something that's denied and demonized become just everyday common knowledge.
What are your thoughts about the 26 midterms? Trump getting the big beautiful bill passed. I hope that we do something to actually only allow American citizens to vote in American elections. And I know it sounds so crazy when you say that out loud, but is that the next big agenda, the voting you know, solidarity, the SAVE Act, where we actually have to put in the law? Because I think that is how we protect our own sovereignty. What are your thoughts about that and leading into the 26 midterms?
So I've not seen as much on that as I would like. You would think a president who for 4 years said that his election was stolen would immediately jump on that. At the same time, I'll provide some grace. He's got a lot going on, wars all over the world, an economy that was crushing people with inflation, the Biden administration lying about the inflation, coming out of this pandemic. So there's a lot going on. The one thing that I have seen Trump talk about, which I think is actually probably equal with having free and fair elections, is to immediately redo the census and only
Yes.
count American citizens. If he does that, Republicans will dominate for 100 years, because we know that you remove all those illegals from the census, and all of a sudden Republicans pick up like 20 to 25 seats.
Yeah.
We have way better policies than Democrats. The one area that Republicans really lack is they have great ideas and terrible execution, and Democrats have terrible ideas and excellent execution. So if we can just execute better, but I think that would be a huge one. Yes, I would like to see free and fair elections. I have no doubt that the 2020 election was rigged. We're finding out hundreds of thousands of fake IDs from China, hundreds of thousands of fake ballots pre-filled out for Joe Biden. You've got witnesses in Georgia, Pennsylvania saying that there were pre-filled out ballots that didn't even have any creases. So how did something go through the mail and then come out crystal clean, or pristine? How did Joe Biden lose 18 of the 19 bellwether counties, Ohio, Iowa, and Florida? And I understand that these things shift, but either it was a miracle that he won, or it was rigged. And I tend to lean that it was rigged.
Let me ask you this, and I know you're a busy guy. For the Democrat Party, for the Republican Party, we have a real established leadership hierarchy. Who is the real leader of the Democrat Party right now? Who is their real voice? And I don't really even see a candidate stepping out for the Democrat. I've got an idea. I think it's going to be the governor of Maryland, Wes Moore. I feel like he's being groomed to be the next Obama 5.0 or whatever you want to call it. But I would like to get your thoughts on who is the real leader of the Democrat Party. And if you know what their platform or policy is, clue me and my audience in, because I don't know. I can't find it.
I don't think that they have a leader like the Republicans do. The Republicans have a really solid bench of people for 2028. I don't know who they have, which is why they'll probably lean into Gavin Newsom or Kamala Harris, even though that's the wrong move. They regularly lean in the wrong direction, right? It's like kind of their thing. But they had a guy that I really liked named Dean Phillips. He's very moderate, but they actively worked to remove him from ballots, to disqualify him from the primary. They banned the DNC from giving him any money to run his platform. So I don't know that there's any one strong candidate. Even this governor that you just mentioned, if they don't have like a national brand name, it's really hard. Like Kamala Harris had a really great brand name. She was a woman. She was a person of color. She had been an attorney general. She had been a senator. And with $2 billion, you still couldn't polish that turd. Like, it was just a terrible policy. She didn't resonate with anybody. So I do think Gavin Newsom is getting ready to run. He's all of a sudden going to South Carolina to speak at 8 different counties. Like, what? What are you going to tell them? Like, how to increase your homeless population? How to show kindness towards people strung out on drugs? How
to make
create
Skid
an
Row.
app? Yeah, how to create an app that points out where the fecal matter crap is on the sidewalk so people can avoid it in San Francisco. Like, I love California. I've got family out there, friends out there. I like to visit out there. I would never, ever live in California.
You couldn't pay me. You couldn't pay me. Last question, and get your thoughts on this. I've been around for a while. You've been around for a while. We've endured some really good presidents and some bad presidents. Out of all of those, is the auto pin scandal the biggest scandal in American presidential history? Because I think, without a shadow of a doubt, 8,000 pardons. And now that we find out an assistant or a secretary or whatever she was signing pardons, I think that is the biggest scandal in American history. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's right up there with the Russiagate story. I mean, espionage and intelligence agencies trying to take out Donald Trump. I mean, they assassinated JFK. I think they tried to assassinate Donald Trump's character. So I think that one is big. It's behind us, though, and a lot of people are like, let's move on, even though I don't like to let criminals get away with stuff, no matter how long ago it was, right? But yeah, the auto pen thing, I guess I don't really care about some of the people that were pardoned, but the fact that Anthony Fauci got a fake pardon, the fact that Adam Schiff and Liz Cheney, after destroying the January 6th evidence, got a pardon. The pardon thing is a big deal. I've had some guests on my show that talk about how they're going to be pursuing those. And now Trump has somebody in there that is, looking at those deeply, seeing how they want to present it to a court. But obviously, Joe Biden was not in his mental capacity. They took advantage of him 5 days in. And I think more and more truth will come out. I think maybe the only accountability that might happen, Ben, is just telling the truth, which harms these people's reputation. But is anyone going to go to jail? I don't really know. But I hope these Republicans grow a spine and actually find out the truth and then make some criminal referrals, and that we see some accountability. I think it's the one thing that's lacking is the MAGA base wants to see arrests. Yeah, we're confused. Why are you giving money and weapons to Ukraine? Yeah, we're confused on the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. But what we're not confused is we want some people to pay for the crime they committed.
I think Donald Trump could put himself into folklore history with a handful of arrests, and it would totally baptize the American people. We would be cleansed of all of this corruption with some really coordinated and precise arrests. Stephen, I want to say thank you for coming on the channel. Thanks for taking some time out. And I really hope all of my audience, I'll put a link in the description so that they can go and find your channel. And Stephen, I really appreciate it. Have you got anything to say on your way out the door or back to the golf course or whatever you got planned?
Oh, no, I have 3 more videos today, so no golf for me. But thank you for coming on. I'm optimistic for the future. I believe that God preserved Donald Trump's life so that he could be the leader of our great nation. I believe that America is being made great again, and I look forward to being a part of it and living through this unique part of American history.